And welcome to the April Fool's show of Trips and Traps. We are the April Fools. I'm Andy Serling. Eric Donovan.
Yes, we are. We are indeed the April Fools. We got a couple of segments to bring you this week. The first segment will feature all races on March 26th, including a couple of horses we think are worthwhile betting next time out, and a horse that we were quite impressed by.
Yeah, and the third one we show is not a trip at all, in fact. I mean, we'll discuss why we thought the horse ran well, but just a horse that won we think is going to improve in the future and run some good races.
Well, let's get on to the first race here, and this was the third race from March 26th, a non-winners of one allowance for New York breds, going a mile on the inner track.
One of the things I found interesting about this race, and we're looking at number 6, Magical Devotion. And Magical Devotion will drop back in the first turn and is actually going to leave the picture as we head down the backstretch early in the race, and a number of things to discuss about that. First of all, Magical Devotion appears to me to be a horse that has trouble handling the sharper turns of the inner. And as we get to the main track, which obviously starts today, here and at Belmont, this horse will have a chance to go 7 furlongs or a mile around one turn, and especially at Belmont, I think it will suit this horse's style a great deal. Now, what surprised me is Magical Devotion, his first 2 starts sprinting, had some speed, and I think we showed him on one of those races. But now that he's been going longer, he's been dropping back, and also, odd racing that the winner opens a huge lead early, holds on to win the race, and goes a crawling pace. I have trouble believing the pace could have been that slow, but they did hold on.
Yeah, the quarter was 24-2, the half 50-2. Usually when you see a horse open up a lead like this, they're not going this slow, but that was what the fractions were. And to prove that the pace was slow, the second place, the horse that's running second right now, Matthew TC, will hold on for second as well. And we see the horse we're looking at, Magical Devotion, all the way in the back of the pack against this slow pace, losing ground.
Yeah, he really just doesn't seem to take these turns. I mean, you see him going out into the four-path here, and considering the pace and where he was earlier in the backstretch, he's already moved up a few lengths in here. I think he was definitely much the best. Even though he seems to hang in the stretch, I think it's more a question of dynamics. And he's sort of lumbering along, and the jockey's really riding him to get into position. Now he's making this big 4-wide move, and also by a personality was the heavy favorite in this race, is off the picture now, and that's a horse wherever he drops to next time, I think, to stay away from. But here comes Magical Devotion. Looks like he's going to win the race, but I think the pace and him being wide is what did him in.
Yeah, we had a little discussion after the race. I kind of thought he hung a little bit. Andy made the argument that the pace and the wide trip did him in. And, you know, I guess with a horse like this, you got to give him the benefit of the doubt. If he gets a better setup, a faster pace, certainly the top 2 horses here aren't going to be able to hold on quite as well as it did this time with that slow pace. And if he saves a little more ground next time out, that's going to help too. You know, he's a horse that I think has some potential. At first, I wasn't thrilled about him because I did think he hung a little bit. But you know what? The more I look at it, the more I think about it, I think you got to give him another chance.
Yeah, I think this is a pretty nice New York bred. He's a non-winners of one, and they're going to go, I don't know, maybe he'll probably get a race on the main track at Aqueduct, a mile, somewhere in the 7 to a mile range, and then we get to Belmont, a similar thing. This horse is going to win his next start, assuming it's a fair situation.
Let's take a look at our second race, and this is the 6th race from the 26th. This is a maiden claiming race for New York breds for $50,000, and we're looking at the 3 and the 6.
And this is an interesting race for a couple of reasons. First of all, as you'll obviously see, the 3 4-star General breaks a little bit slowly, but you're going to see very shortly, and we'll focus in on these horses now for a quick second, but you'll see very shortly the 3 4-star General steadying back and losing some more position. But basically, this race is won at the start when Cici Lopez, who's riding the winner, Brassy Event, and the horse has the speed to do it, but Cici does what he does best. He breaks his horse out of the gate sharply, he gets him to the front, he establishes the lead, and then he reins him in a little bit, goes a slower fraction. And you compare where he is to the 3-horse 4-star General, who's already steadied and was maybe hurt a little bit by having the inside position, not breaking that sharply, but he was steadied a little bit, and now he's rushing up 4 wide, and Cici's got the huge advantage on the eventual winner.
Yeah, it's a game of cat and mouse here as Cici slowed him down going into the turn there, forcing Mel's Gold and 4-star General to chase there, but Cici lets Brassy Event out a little bit here, putting the 6, 3, and 6 on the chase even more. So, you know, kind of puts him up against it, considering the ground loss that the 4-star General had going into the turn and where he was from the start, and also the pace tactics against the 6, Mel's Gold. Both horses run very well here.
Right. One of the harder things to do in racing is to chase wide and make that sort of middle-ish move, chasing wide against a reasonably slow pace against a winner that's going to wire the field, because you're just at a disadvantage, and he has such an advantage on you. And once again, it's what Lopez does best in this situation, and of course 4-star General really just is way against it, and I think all things considered did very well, beating just 2.5 lengths for the money here.
Now, moving forward, I think 4-star General, probably a shortish kind of price, but maybe meets a field that where there's a little bit more of an even pace in it, or maybe not quite as good a field as the one with Brassy Event, or maybe a better field where you get a better price.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about him is, you know, everything is relative, but First of all, I'd like to see him get a more outside post where he can break outside and not get in trouble on the inside, but also you want everything to be perfect. I wouldn't mind if the field looked a little bit tougher because I don't know what kind of numbers he's going to get, but if he's in a race he looks a little bit slow, I think you can say that he ran a few lengths better in that race than it looks like on paper. So maybe he'll get a field that's a little bit tougher than this one, and he'll look a little worse than he could be. We can make some money, 3-1, somewhere in there. He's not going to be a big price.
I agree. One more race to show you on this segment, and this is the 8th race from the 26th. An allowance optional claimer, high-priced allowance optional claimer with some solid horses like Sir Winston, St. Damon, 613, and a new shooter to the group, the 7, Per Incanto, who we're looking at here.
Yeah, this horse does not have a trip, per se, that we'll talk about it. And Per Incanto is the horse on the outside in the Shadwell Silks, number 7. And he will win this race, but he wins it by just about a neck. And I think he ran a lot better than he did, and Eric will agree that Per Incanto may be a horse a little bit of a future. This was an extraordinarily fast pace. Now, the horse who's in front ends up being eased, and he was basically a no-shotter in here. 613, though, is a horse coming off a layoff that's shown some real ability before the layoff, is chasing in the pace, and he's hard-held in the pace, but Per Incanto is right on top of that big pace.
Absolutely, and Per Incanto, just to give you a little bit of a profile of the kind of horse he is, a Shadwell horse that had been running in Great Britain for a different trainer, comes over here for Kieran McLaughlin, hadn't run since April of 2008, so you're looking at almost a year layoff, so keep that in mind while this horse is putting in this pretty impressive performance. And you see Rajiv Mirage here, the rider on Per Incanto. He looks like a bobblehead doll at the top of the stretch, just shaking his head up and down like he's got a ton of horse. He asked Per Incanto for run. He gets run here, but St. Damon makes a good run at him late, too.
Yeah, I mean, St. Damon showed how he was able to take advantage of the dynamics of this fast pace, and St. Damon's pretty good. He was coming off what we thought was a very nice fourth-place finish in the Toboggan, where he made a bit of a premature move. And the third-place finisher here, Sir Winston, had a very nice trip in this race, and Sir Winston had won 8 of his last 11 races and was coming off a very good performance. Per Incanto gets a little tired at the end. He was coming off a layoff. It was first race in the dirt, and I really think, all things considered, he ran very, very well in here. Now, I don't know how well he's going to settle in the future because he was pretty much on top of the strong pace, but Per Incanto, I wouldn't be surprised to see him moving up in the stakes company, and I think he's going to do okay.
Absolutely, I would agree with you there 100%. Just looks like he needed maybe a tightener to get under his belt and should improve from this race on.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing him down the road. There's some decent sprinters around. We'll see a lot of them in the car this weekend. Don't think Per Incanto's quite up to that race yet. First of all, he was nominated, as you had pointed out. We talked about him earlier. Anyway, does it for this part of Trips and Traps. Once again, we'd love to hear your comments, and that email address is tripsandtraps@nairainc.com. Send them along. We love hearing from you. We certainly like to respond. Sometimes you can get 2 different responses, one from Eric, one from me, and we'd like to hear your thoughts on the show. Thanks again for watching.
Come on back for the second segment.